Part 98. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 974. The invisible and formless aura rose in the array of White Eagle warriors. In an instant, the faces of the 300 White Eagle warriors who lined up neatly changed horribly. According to the standard description of group disease spell, this spell is triggered by a powerful dry cough, and a black and red mist rises in the designated area. All creatures in the fog will be affected by this spell and become ill immediately. But in Greet's opinion, this approach is too rough, really too rough. A strong dry cough is most likely the caster of the disease spell, who cultivated the pathogenic bacteria on his body and sprayed it out through a dry cough. The black and red mist is likely to be caused by the caster himself not being able to figure out which pathogenic bacteria require what growth conditions and what symptoms it can cause, so he has to simplify them and find a greatest common denominator. As for the signs that are too obvious and easily recognized, everything is not the most important in the face of spell casting failure. However, once you understand the principle of this spell, Gretel can of course change it if he casts the spell himself. After the changes are completed, the method can be more concealed and the effect can be stronger. As for why we pointed the oak stick forward and shouted go. Oops, a sense of ritual is sometimes needed. Besides, with the casting action, the Golden Eagle warriors can confirm that he has indeed done his job. Ah! My face! My face! My hand! Shouts came and went. However, the shouts died down within a few rounds. Each of the White Eagle warriors covered their necks, pinched their throats, fell to their knees, or even rolled to the ground. The hands, face, neck, and all the exposed skin were bright red, looking ferocious and terrifying. The 6 Golden Eagle warriors were shocked. They hurried forward and leaned over to take a look. At first glance, I breathed a sigh of relief. The skin of the White Eagle warriors was not filled with blood, but with red rashes the size of pinheads. Most of them were as red as if they were dripping blood, and the tops of a few were yellow and white, looking like pus. At the second glance, it was obvious that something was wrong. The brows of these White Eagle warriors were furrowed, their expressions were painful, and their breath was filled with heat. When they reached out and touched their foreheads, they found that they had a high fever. Press your hand on the skin and the rash will fade away, and when you release your hand, the rash will turn bright red again. After 2 more shakes, the stronger ones were still moaning and struggling, but judging from the sound, their throats were completely mute. The weaker ones were already curled up on the ground, holding their heads, muttering about having a headache. There was a layer of white coating on the tongue, with a little red star protruding from it. Some White Eagle warriors couldn't stand the itching and had begun to scratch all over their bodies. The hard nails scratched the skin, and there were 5 blood marks on the skin, and then there were 5 blood marks on the skin. Soon, there was blood dripping on his face, arms, and even his neck. This. Several Golden Eagle warriors looked at each other with solemn expressions. The leader stood up, turned around, and walked quickly towards Gretel. After taking only 3 steps, a scream came from behind. Cusco! What's wrong with you? The leader suddenly turned around. When he turned around, he saw Cusco, the youngest Golden Eagle warrior, half kneeling, holding a red-faced and semi-conscious White Eagle in his hands. The White Eagle warrior was more than 1 round older than him, and his facial contours were somewhat similar. He was probably Cusco's elder. At this time, he seemed to be unable to bear the pain and scratched desperately, leaving several red marks on Cusco's arm. Then, they watched as dense red rashes appeared on Cusco's arms, cheeks, and neck. Hearing the shouts of his companions, he wanted to open his mouth, but his voice was completely hoarse, and he could only let out a few soft ah sounds. This, respected Lord of Plague. The Golden Eagle warrior was completely convinced. He bowed his head to Gretel respectfully and put away all his previous thoughts. We have engraved your strength in our hearts. Please forgive our temptations and offenses, take back your divine power, and forgive these young warriors. In the previous battles, Gretel's performance was obvious to all. Although he did play a great role, everyone also noticed that in terms of energy intensity, he was a little weaker than the strongest white eagle. Even the silver-haired girl was much stronger than him. However, even the silver-haired girl, the 6 of them together, could withstand it. Not to mention, there are 12 golden eagle warriors, and the eagle god is standing behind them. Of course, such a balance of power can be discussed with some thought. If these two can be invited to help fight the white ghosts without paying any extra price, they will also gain more favor in front of the eagle god. Powerful. But it's different now. Gretel's power is even weirder than that of the plague girl, and it's invisible and formless. They had never seen this bright red disease before. Moreover, even the golden eagle warrior can be tricked. You're going to send out what you're told, and you're going to take what you're told to accept. Before Gretel could speak, Cyrilla had already said something sullen. After quarreling with each other, he didn't even look at these warriors. He grabbed Gretel and put away the mage's hut. Let's go. Wait. Wait, the leading golden eagle warrior quickly stopped him. He quickly walked around in front of the two of them, opened his arms, and tried to stop them. As soon as he raised his arm, he immediately felt a murderous aura coming towards his face, and he quickly saluted. We can pay the price. We can give you a reward. Please be sure to take back your divine power. As he spoke, he began to take off the pendant on his body. He took off a string of necklaces and placed them on the ground, then he took off a pair of armbands and placed them on the ground, then he took off 2 large gold rings inlaid with precious stones and placed them on the ground. Several other golden eagle warriors also came over, and soon, there was a small pile of gold scattered in front of Gretel. Cyrilla snorted and her expression brightened slightly. Greet's expression also softened slightly. He touched the space bag and took out an iron box exuding cold air and a row of 6 needles. I will not take back my divine power, just take it as a lesson. The medicine in this is for 1 person in each small glass bottle. Use a syringe to absorb the liquid, inject it into the small glass bottle, shake it up, and then inject it into them. It can protect them for a day. Immortal. He raised his eyes and glanced at the white eagle warriors. The immediate onset of scarlet fever looks particularly scary, but with the physique of a mid to high level warrior, he should be able to survive it. Each person has a shot of penicillin, and the probability of surviving is even greater. If he can't stand the power of the medicine, give him an encouragement technique, or whatever. By the way, if you don't want everyone in the eagle country to fall ill, will this one get sick one by one? The leading golden eagle warrior immediately raised his head, his eyes full of fear. Greet spread his hands. Otherwise, if you don't want to do this, take a good bath before taking the person back, and boil or burn all the clothes. For other treatments, you can figure it out yourself. As he said this, he placed a wind barrier around the two of them, and dragged Cyrilla away to fly away. Several golden eagle warriors were left looking at each other on the spot. They could only roll up their sleeves and follow Greet's words to inject the warriors one by one. After the medicine entered the body, golden eagle warrior Kazuko's complexion improved first. He knelt on the ground and prayed a few words to the eagle god. The golden flames on his body flickered on and off, and he took a long breath. When I stood up again, the rash on my face and body had subsided, and my voice had returned to normal. And the breath he exhaled was blood red. When it fell to the ground, the young grass on the ground immediately withered. From tomorrow at 2 p.m. to 2 p.m. next Sunday, the author will go to the editor's tweets on Kidian's homepage. It's the one with the cover below the big tweets, commonly known as small tweets. So, starting from tomorrow, we will update for 1 more week until next Sunday. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 975. The 6 Golden Eagle warriors looked at each other. They stood side by side and looked at the White Eagle warriors rolling on the ground with stern expressions on their faces. It's really strong. There was no warning at all, it just started with a finger of the oak staff. I doubt that even this finger was necessary. The White Eagle warriors will be knocked down immediately, and even us will be affected, if the Black Eagle warriors are to kill them all in an instant. Let's just report back like this: the plague girl has been killed, and there's no point in holding anyone else hostage. The 6 of them took syringes each and followed Greet's instructions to inject the White Eagle warriors one by one. 300 people. Each Golden Eagle warrior needs to inject 50 people. How long will it take to get busy? Fortunately, most people get better after taking the medicine into their bodies. Although he was still lying on the ground and humming, the rashes all over his body had faded a lot. My throat is less dry and hoarse, and my body temperature has dropped slightly. Several Golden Eagle warriors felt a little relieved. They gathered in a circle, each took off the golden wings from their backs, and prayed quietly. The White Eagle warriors who were still able to move struggled to get up and lined up behind them. Amid the uniform prayers, golden wings floated in the air and formed a ring. Up and down, pat gently. In the distant large temple, the statue of the eagle god instantly shot out 2 golden lights. My loyal warrior, news came from afar. Gretel and Sarah flew away in the air without looking back. Passing through forests, passing streams, and passing battlefields full of blood and flesh. Looking down at the hills on the edge of the battlefield, there was already a scene of jubilant celebrations. Tall tents formed a large circle. In the open space in front of the tent, a bonfire was burning, and the soldiers sang and danced. Holding a wooden bowl filled with wine pulp in one hand and a large skewer of barbecue in the other, they waved their arms, kicked their legs, stepped on the ground, and sang loudly. Chopping wood, suddenly happy. Chipping wood, suddenly happy. Play stones, light torches, aha. Knock down the prey, carry the meat back, ho ho. The flames flashed and flickered, rising high for a while, and then falling down when blown by the wind, making the faces of the soldiers dim and bright. The colorful feather crest on his head and the complex totem lines on his face looked even more ferocious and terrifying under the firelight. However, at this time, no one would think that these faces looked scary. Every face is filled with a bright smile, and smile is the most common thing among human emotions. 2 warriors who are not from the same tribe, do not know each other, and do not even speak the same language. As long as they look at each other, they will raise the barbecue in their hands, open their mouths, and laugh. 1. It's safe. No more fear of the plague girl. With sharp eyes, Sarah could see at a glance the Black Panther, which was several times larger than a tiger, lying in the crowd, squinting, and gently waving its tail like a steel whip. Chewing barbecue, his mouth full of oil, several soldiers gathered around him, brushing his fur diligently. Look! Leopard! She screamed and pointed down. Greet took her hand and let it fly down. Immediately, several great chiefs and great witch priests came together to salute him. Dear Lord Son of God! Dear Lord of Plague! Hey, we won't talk about this today. Gretel waved his hand in a good mood. We had a big battle today and won. Everyone is tired. It's time to celebrate. Without further ado, let's eat meat and drink wine. Eat meat and drink wine, everyone responded loudly. Immediately afterwards, 2 warriors carried a freshly roasted calf and placed it in front of them. The great chief of the buffalo tribe cut off a soft and juicy tenderloin himself and sent it to Greet. Lord Son of God, please. Gretel. I have one thing to say, it is a bit wasteful for you to grill meat like this, why not bake it piece by piece, so that each piece has its own flavor and is not easy to burn. While he was cursing, he took out his knife and chose the best piece to give to Cyrilla. Just after the division was completed, 2 more soldiers came over carrying the head of the roasted sheep and offered him a piece of sheep tail oil. Gretel. I don't want to eat. Take it away. What's so delicious about this pure fat? So boring. The 2 of them ate and drank heartily. It was not until Gretel was slumping over and burping while he was stroking his belly that several chiefs came to him. He put his hand on his chest and bowed deeply. Dear Son of God, I am very grateful that you fought side by side with us and defeated the plague girl. We will always remember your courage and kindness in our hearts. Please accept our gratitude and dedication. No need dash. Gretel blurted out. Before he finished speaking, plop, plop, several large baskets made of rattan were carried up by the soldiers and laid flat in a row in front of Gretel. Under the torch, the brilliant color of gold and the brilliance of colorful jewelry shine all over the place. Cyrilla's eyes were quickly reflected into gold. Greet glanced at her and closed her mouth very wisely. So much gold. Cyrilla admired in a small voice. She knelt down and fiddled with these items one by one. Unlike the trophies given to them by King Whitehorn, which were covered with mud and buried for an unknown period of time, the gifts sent by these human tribes were not fragments at least. Cyrilla casually picked up the box closest to her and picked up a gold item. It was a golden mask. The shape is very special. It does not basically fit the human face like the masks Greet saw in Nevis, but is 2 or even 3 circles larger than the human face. The sides are spread out as much as possible, and the pointed ears with membranes are raised one by one, looking a bit like a bat. The top of the mask is decorated with a circle of brilliant feathers, and a circle of gold hangings dangles from the bottom. Most of the front area is covered with cinnabar. Cyrilla picked up the mask, turned it over, and covered her face. The silver blue eyes sparkled behind the mask, and in the middle of the eyes, the silver blue drop-shaped pendant swung gently at the vertical pupil position, emitting thousands of rays of brilliance. I like this. Cyrilla announced happily. She let go of her hand, and the golden mask fell naturally onto her face. She reached out to grab it in the box again. What I grabbed this time was a long golden staff. On the head of the staff stood a golden eagle, with its wings spread out and its head lowered to peck. There is a golden snake coiled around the staff. The snake's body is tightly wrapped around the long staff. The snake's head is tilted back and its neck is expanding as much as possible. It is looking for an opportunity to attack the golden eagle. The wings and tail feathers of the golden eagle are drawn with great detail, while the fine scales on the snake's body can actually be seen to differentiate between contraction and relaxation. Not to mention the 2 emeralds in the golden eagle's eyes sparkling with life, and the pair of rubies in the snake's eyes seem to be on fire. Even if you don't consider the cut or the size and texture of the gemstones, this golden staff is already beautiful enough. I like this too. Cyrilla raised her golden staff high. Her slender fingers moved quickly, turning the heavy golden staff in a circle, then raised it towards Gretel, and gave it a weak smash. Bang! Thank you, I think the oak cane is painful enough. Greet put his head in his hands in cooperation and murmured. Cyrilla laughed happily and continued to search for treasures in the box. Those gold plates, gold bowls, gold armbands, and gold pieces and gold ornaments were not interesting enough for her to even look at. They were probably all used to make the bed in the future. After picking around, she found only a natural gold nugget as big as a watermelon and an armband made in the shape of a spiritual snake that would wrap around her arm and tremble. She wrapped the armband around her arm, shook it once, and then shook it again. Oh! Look at that little snake's eyes. She pulled Gretchen to her side, rotated her arm, and thrust the armband straight in front of his eyes. Look, if you turn down, it's this color, if you turn up, it's another color. The refreshing and sweet smell hit the girl's nose. For some reason, Gretel's heart suddenly began to beat wildly even though she had been flying side by side with her in his arms during the day and didn't feel anything was wrong. He gave a few random compliments, said I'm going to see the wounded today, and walked away quickly. Take a few steps and find the chief of the Kestrel tribe. You guys are too polite. Ah, these are nothing. The chief of the Kestrel tribe raised his head and laughed. The brick-red, blue-gray feather crest with black and white spots trembled above his head. He looked at Cyrilla, who picked out another long bead chain and wrapped it around her hand to look at it. Fine lines formed in the corners of his eyes. These are things we occasionally pick up or seize from invaders and use them in exchange. Compared to the lives you saved, they are not worth mentioning. It is only because the lady likes them that we dare to present them to you. Do you mean that's not all the gift is? Gretel thought for a while, and the gold in these baskets weighed hundreds of kilograms in total, which is about 100,000 gold coins, which is about the same as Cyrilla's bed made entirely of gold coins, 18 part. Even in Nevis, this price is enough to buy a level 9 mage to attack with all his strength. Even if danger is encountered during the attack, as long as it is not a narrow escape, the mage can't say anything. Isn't this all? Of course, it is understandable that the value of gold is different in different places. Greet tried his best to keep his expression intact and nodded calmly. Then what? You saved the lives of our people and protected us from the plague girl. We can only be worthy of your favor by dedicating our most precious treasures to you. The core of a powerful monster, a weapon refined for many years, a rare treasure. He looked back at the soldiers singing and dancing by the bonfire, and said with joy, these are all stored in the tribe's big house. Now that we have won, I have sent tribesmen to get them. In addition, if you have any needs, we will do our best to help you. That's right. A small mountain-like bison stepped out of the darkness. The white-horned king lowered his head, looked at Gretel with his warm eyes, and said in a deep voice, Dear son of God, if you have any needs, just ask. As long as we have it, you will definitely get it. Thinking, what does Gretel, including his team, lack? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to @bookfriend161201203603164 for the reward of 300 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 976. Gretel looked to his left, and the white-horned king lowered his huge head and looked at him in a friendly manner. Looking to the right, several chiefs of large tribes and the great witch priests stood in a row, their old faces smiling like sunflowers. Although it was already dark now, the sunflowers should have closed their flower plates. Look at that, even if they want to catch a level 15 monster, these people will immediately pounce on it, tie it up and carry it to him. Gretel felt a little warm in her heart for a moment. Compared to the Eagle country, which is so wary and crooked, always thinking about digging holes for him and holding Lin and back to make things difficult for him, these natives are indeed much cuter. In this case, he can't let him down even more. He raised a smile, stretched out his hand to hold it, and the ancient vine bird jumped into his palm. After flapping its wings twice, it suddenly flew to the ground again and turned into a giant bird as tall as a person. Gretel calmed down, used his mental power to communicate with it, and rummaged in its stomach for a while. I saw the little bird opening its mouth and spitting out a bunch of light balls. Ping bang, it fell to the ground and appeared as boxes one after another. This is my gift to you. Gretel raised his hand and pointed, and the lid of the box flew open, revealing a large package of things inside. The chief of the Kestrel tribe said with an ouch. That's unnecessary. Halfway through the words, he bit the tip of his tongue hard and hissed in pain. Under the illumination ball, dozens of packages were laid out in rows, filled with various utensils. From the thickest and longest quilt needles, to thin and short sewing needles, to spools of thread. From large scissors with palm-long blades that can cut even fur, to small and delicate scissors that can be used to cut hair and nails. Buttons made of wood, copper, horn, and various materials. Machetes, axes, saws, saw blades bundled together. In a large iron pot, heavy square buns were wrapped with dried cattails. Gretel held it up with the hand of the mage, brought it to the chief, and poked a hole. White crystal powder flows out swishingly. The great chief dipped a little with his thick finger, brought it to his mouth and tasted it, and immediately opened his eyes wide. Salt. And it's salt that has a pure taste and is not bitter at all. Compared with the salt they got from the seaside tribes who traveled hundreds or thousands of miles away, the color and taste are much better. This. The chief of the Kestrel tribe rubbed his hands back and forth, his eyes fell on the big bag of salt, and he couldn't pull it out. Salt, this is salt. Such a large amount of salt, in their tribe, is enough to exchange for a whole bag of furs, the kind that only a warrior can carry with enough strength. Not to mention these needles and threads, scissors, knives and axes, and various other supplies are all they need every day. You can live without them, but with them, daily life is so convenient. Just say that the needle and thread are ready. Grind a bone needle with bird bones or fish bones, or grind a needle with horns, animal teeth, or thick thorns, and then make eyes. How much time and effort will it take? A family often only has one needle, which should be used with great care. The thickest bundle of needles in Gretel's bag contains at least 100 needles. And in the big bag he spread out, there were at least dozens of needle packs stacked together. This is too polite. The three big chiefs and several small chiefs were jostling each other, breathing heavily. If you want to refuse, you can't bear it, if you want to accept it shamelessly, it's too precious. We are friends. Gretel had already smiled and spread his hands to stop them from talking. These things were all bought by Valensimo on his instructions before he came here, or he took the money directly from his hands and went on a big purchase. The total value is not high, adding up to only tens or hundreds of gold coins, thanks to Neva's industrial capabilities. In comparison, the floor space in space equipment is more valuable. If it weren't for the ancient vine bird given by Elder Tapros, he would never have considered bringing so many things. An ordinary businessman, even unlike a magician with a background like him, have even more limited transportation capacity, and would never consider bringing these things. Goods go so far. If these products were really sent here, the price would be dozens of times higher than in Nevis, which is not a big deal. But what Gretel values is not gold coins at all, not to mention that the natives have given enough gold. You ask me to accept your gift, then you must also accept my gift. How about it? Do you want it? If you don't want me to leave. Want. Several chiefs gritted their teeth and accepted the gift with a shameless smile. It is so needed, and this gift is really delivered to their hearts. This Lord Son of God is so kind, and the gifts he brings are all for their sake. They raised their voices to greet people, carried the gifts down, and placed them in a public tent to guard them. As for how to allocate it, we should never go back and quarrel again. In short, it must be fair and reasonable. Absolutely, cannot, live up to the good intentions of the Son of God. After accepting these gifts, the chief's attitude toward Gretel became even more affectionate. The chief of the Kestrel tribe looked far to the west, took a step forward, and beat his chest. Lord Son of God, you are our best friend. You are our forever friend. Don't worry, those guys from the Eagle Country are not doing things grandly and have bad intentions. We are all watching. If they don't hand over your friend, we will fight with you. Yes, and me. And us. The warriors of the Black Panther tribe will never take a step back. And us. From a distance, a pale golden figure fluttered its wings and landed far away, beyond the reach of the bonfire. Several golden eagle warriors listened to the distant noises, the singing, dancing and laughter of the soldiers, and the loud voices of the chiefs. All the excitement belongs to others and has nothing to do with them. No one was waiting for them, no one invited them, and even the indigenous chiefs were talking about them behind their backs and ostracizing them. Soon, the voice of the white-horned king rumbled. I can't go to such a high plateau, but if they don't give back your friends and my territory, they are not allowed to come here in the future. Well said. This is how you should deal with them. When you treat your benefactors and comrades in arms, you must hold back their friends. Don't make friends with such people. The Golden Eagle warriors looked at each other. After a while, the leading Golden Eagle warrior whispered. Fortunately, we reported to the Eagle God. Yes, I hope they can adopt our opinion. Putting the person back will make it easier to negotiate in the future, right? After all, those white ghosts are still very troublesome. It would be better to have more helpers. Little does Gretel know that his rescue operation will soon take a turn for the better. At this time, he smiled and expressed his gratitude to the chiefs, the Great Witch Festival, and the White-Horned King. Regarding the question what else do you need, he smiled and waved his hand. Oh, you all are so enthusiastic. Everything I didn't expect has been sent here. I really don't need anything anymore. Otherwise, when my other companions arrive, I will ask them again to see what they need. What? And Brother Lin En, he may need something. Your companion, we have already gone to pick him up. The Great Witch of the Kestrel tribe raised his arm. Greet noticed that the bird-shaped totem on his arm had disappeared. The Great Witch Festival explained with a smile. The notice has been sent over there. By now, the warriors escorting your companions should have gathered. You will be able to see them tomorrow morning at the earliest and tomorrow night at the latest. The spirit of the Kestrel, the soul contained by the Kestrel god, had taken off after the war. At this time, the young shaman who stayed dozens of miles away with the cows and cubs in the White-Horned King's group should have received the news. If Lord Son of God's entourage is willing to travel all night, they will probably arrive tomorrow morning. Even if they set off early tomorrow morning, they can still arrive in the evening. After they discussed it for a few days, the gift dedicated to the Son of God was delivered. Greet breathed out and nodded heavily. He said goodbye and returned to his original place to read and look through all the gold jewelry with Sarah. Unknowingly, it was already late at night. Early the next morning, before Bernard and others arrived, several Golden Eagle warriors came over. We prayed to the Eagle God early in the morning and conveyed the news to the country. Oracle, since he is fighting alongside us, he is our friend. There is no reason to hold on to a friend, Mr. Lin En. Soon we will be sent here. Greet let out a heavy breath. Thank God, I'm finally going to see someone. After struggling for so long, Brother Lin is finally safe. When will you arrive? It's a long way from the Eagle Kingdom. Even if there are Golden Eagle warriors flying to escort it, it will take 7 or 8 days. The mountains are high and the forests are dense along the way. There are many powerful monsters. We must ensure the safety of Mr. Lin En. The leading Golden Eagle warrior reported carefully. Seeing that Gretel's expression became indifferent, he stopped being pretentious and sped up. In addition to escorting Mr. Lin En, there will also be a batch of gifts that will be escorted over at the same time. The people of the Eagle God and the Snake God will never treat our friends badly. We will always remember everything you have done for us. Also, have. Needless to say, Gretel was already a little impatient. He stood up with a flutter of sleeves, took a step out, and then turned to look at the other party. Sending brother Lin An here as soon as possible is better than anything else. As for the other things, whether you ask for it or win over him, I won't say anything else until I see the person and make sure brother Lin An is not injured or sick. The Golden Eagle warrior opened his mouth, and seeing Gretel no longer paying attention to him, he could only speak faster. Then we will say goodbye and return to the country to change defenses. If we send 2 more Golden Eagle warriors here, the domestic power to resist the white ghosts will be too little. Gretel didn't even listen and walked straight out. The Golden Eagle warrior was left standing there, sighing silently. Alas, to make this son of God willing to go to the Eagle country to help them deal with the white ghosts, and even to make him willing to fulfill his promise to help the people of the Eagle country resist the disease. I have to continue to pester him. Let's wait for that Mr. Lin An to be sent over. If we don't send him over, it won't be easy to say anything. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Lan 2020. Chapter 977. After the war, the warriors from each tribe returned to their own tribes one after another. Only the chiefs, witch priests, and the strongest warriors from a few tribes stayed in the territory of the White-Horned King, accompanying Greet and others to fulfill their promises. Waiting for the Eagle Nation's action. If they break their promise and don't send Lin back, then everyone will gather together and fight with Gretel. Fortunately, this didn't happen in the end. 7 days later, the wings fluttered in the direction of the setting sun. 2 pale golden light spots were surrounded by a bit of black, and a circle of light white air came meandering around. Flying closer and closer, flying closer and closer, until Gretel raised his head and his eyes lit up quickly. Brother Lin, he waved desperately on the ground. Brother Lin. You are back. After waving his hands twice and jumping twice, he suddenly woke up. Concentrating slightly, he activated his flying technique and flew up towards Lin An. Lin An was still smiling at first and waved vigorously at him. However, seeing Gretel flying closer and closer, rushing towards him with open arms, his eyes widened and he crossed his arms in front of him with a look of fear on his face. Don't come over. Don't try to hug while in the air. Your flying skills are not as good as this. Don't let us both fall together. Gretel, wait. At the critical moment, it was the silver dragon girl who took action to save the crash. Cyrilla flew up quickly, grabbed Gretel by the collar, and dragged her back. Let's talk about it when we get down. Don't fuss in mid-air. Let go, let go. Greet leaned back, grabbed the front of the collar with both hands, and dragged it forward. It's strangled to death. I'm going down. I'm going to fly down by myself. Stop dragging me. Lin smiled and watched them fight and slowly descended. As soon as he landed on the ground, he stepped forward and gave Greet a big hug. Thank you. Greet was a little stiff instead. Standing there, without raising his hands, his neck, spine, and knees were straight from top to bottom, as straight as a zombie. It wasn't until Lin An finished hugging him and took a step back that he stepped forward to grab him and asked hurriedly. Brother Lin, are you okay? Did they hit you? Did they hurt you? Did they? I'm fine. Lin smiled and raised her hand to stop his questioning. The black-robed necromancer raised his head, and his hood naturally slid down behind his head, revealing his thin, pale face. Gretel frowned as soon as he saw it. You said it was okay, you. I only stayed underground for half a year. Lin An smiled and shook his head. Gretel, have you forgotten? The Tower of Sleeplessness is also a pyramid like this. I stay underground all the time and don't come out for half a year. Everyone has this look on their face. Besides, after you came, they have moved me to the upper level. Gretel pursed her lips and said nothing, looking up and down carefully. Lin rolled up her sleeves in cooperation, stretched out her arms, and let him observe. Look, am I really okay? My hands are not broken, my legs are not broken, I can run and jump, apart from being locked up and prohibiting me from casting spells, they really didn't do anything to me. It'll be fine now that I'm out. Don't worry anymore. Greet still didn't speak. He walked around Lin En, threw out the high-level magic crystal given by the teacher, used detection magic to take an X-ray, and sensed his life breath. Thank God, it was nothing serious. For a 9th level necromancer, his vitality is pretty good, not strong, but definitely not weak. There is no weird aura lingering around him, no curses, possessed ghosts, strange insects, none of these. It's good to come back safely, he smiled. Brother Lin En, have you brought all your belongings back? They haven't detained them, right? The golden skeleton, the space bag, the magic equipment for self-defense. As he spoke, his knife-like gaze was already gouging out the 2 escorting Golden Eagle warriors. The 2 Golden Eagle warriors immediately retreated, and a woman walked out from beside them. It was the Titlin female snake who had already dealt with Gretel several times. Dear Lord Shenzi, we definitely have not withheld Lord Lin's belongings. Lord Son of God. Lin showed interest. Gretel, cough. 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 Brother Lin, I'll explain it to you later. Let me finish my question first. Are you really not buttoning it up? You have locked him up for so long and you haven't even taken away his things. Divided it, used it? As he spoke, he pulled Lin back until he was in the crowd of his own, standing with Sarira, Bernard, Valensimo, and all the chiefs. The Titlin female snake took a few steps forward lightly, but did not get too close. She explained in a low voice. In the beginning, it was Sister Nilka who took it upon herself to lock him up in the dungeon. Sister Nilka fell in love with him and didn't want to make the relationship too bad. They just restricted Lord Lin's spellcasting ability and did not take him away. Things. Oh. Is it that female snake? The undead woman who provoked him and had a lot of power eaten by the snake? This time, it was Gretel's turn to shine. He held his chin and looked at Lin up and down with new eyes. Okay, Brother Lin. At home, you were alone, neither pursuing any girl nor being pursued by any girl. But when you arrived in the land of the eagle, you were actually pursued by a girl, who would even lock you up. I didn't expect you to have such charm. Cough 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 dash Lin also broke out into a violent cough. He looked left and right, his eyes flickering, avoiding Greet's eyes back and forth, and finally turned the topic back to its original position. Anyway, my things weren't taken away, they just locked me up. He stretched out his hands again and rolled up his sleeves. There are 2 shallow marks on the wrist, which are the result of being handcuffed for many years. Then when the news about you came, they treated me like a distinguished guest and even released my imprisonment. You see, I was unscathed and everything was brought out. He said and patted the space bag. A golden light flashed out, and the golden skull fell to the ground, took off its head in a decent manner, and bowed to Gretel. Then he put his head back, stretched out his arms, and spun around. The upper and lower jaws clicked, as if they were smiling, and they seemed to say hello to everyone loudly. After saying hello, he stretched out his hands, and a black light fell into his arms. However, it was Mr. Trochka who rushed forward and rolled in the arms of the golden skeleton. Ah, you are still there. Lin En's eyes suddenly shone with excitement. He took a step forward and held the demon pet, which had shrunk a lot and was only the size of a kitten, in his arms. Bump it up and down, rub its back, and then reach out to scratch its chin. I thought I'd never see you again. His voice and arms trembled slightly, and he was obviously very excited. If he were not in front of others, he would almost bury his face in the cat's fur. Greet stood aside, smiling at the passionate interaction between Brother Lin and Mr. Trochka, and then reached out to brush the cat's fur. Mr. Trochka is so awesome. He traveled across the continent from the Eagle country alone, found a boat, and ran all the way back to Nevis for help. When I saw him, he could hardly maintain his shape. Ah, Lin's arms tightened, and this time, he really buried his face in the cat's fur. After taking a deep breath and rubbing it twice, I heard Gretel say. I took it to the teacher, and the teacher said that a piece of its existence was torn off, and it can only be restored if it is retrieved. Brother Lin, where was it injured? Lin stopped talking. He hugged his lost demon pet tightly, lowered his head, pressed his forehead against the cat's head, and said nothing. After a long while, I opened my eyes and let out a long sigh. When it was separated from me, it was still intact. As for how he was injured, was he injured by the eagle god, the snake god, or other strong men when he rushed out? Or was he injured by some totem god when he was crossing the continent? Lin communicated carefully with Mr. Trochka through the contract and telepathy, but could not come up with an answer. The kitten curled up in his palm and trembled gently. Recalling the injury, all he could remember was the overwhelming shadows and the cold, sharp, extremely fast blow. It's so scary. It's so scary. It happened all of a sudden. I didn't even have time to escape. Lin's intuition was that the former was the most likely. In other words, if you return to the Eagle country and ask for Mr. Trochka's existence from the Eagle god or the Snake god, if you are lucky, you can still get it. However, Lin turned around, glanced at the two golden eagle warriors, and sighed secretly. Forget it, I can't beat it. With his strength, if he wanted to kill the Eagle Kingdom, turn the opponent upside down, and get back what Mr. Trochka had lost, he would probably have to level up half as much. It's level 9 now, and when it reaches level 18, it's probably about the same. As for asking Greed to help, Lin never thought about it. Gretchen had already taken a huge risk by crossing the continent to rescue him. Putting him in danger again was not the behavior of a friend. I don't know, I'm not sure. He answered slowly, changing his position so that Mr. Trochka could curl up in his arms and sleep. Greed frowned slightly and hesitated to speak. Not far ahead, the Titlan female snake has taken an eager step forward. Dear Lord Son of God, I am entrusted by Trotoani, the leader of the Golden Eagle and the female snake, to convey an invitation to you. The Eagle country sincerely invites you and all your friends to come to our country. She turned a blind eye to Greet's resisting expression, her posture was soft, and she bowed. You and your friends will be treated as honored guests. We look forward to your efforts to help all people fight against the disease as mentioned before. If you fight side by side with us against the white ghosts, we will offer you the eagles, the national treasure. With a soft sound, a pure black leather box was opened in front of Gretel, full of jewels. Gretel didn't look at it, just looked at Lin. Brother Lin N, are you going? Or should you go back to China first? Don't make a hasty decision yet. Lin N shook his head gently. He stepped forward slowly, blocking Gretel behind him, and faced the warriors of the Eagle Kingdom and the female snake. Let's discuss it first. I think you can afford to wait for a few days to discuss it, right? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 978. After repelling the envoys from the Eagle Kingdom, Greet and his party returned to their residence to discuss privately. While Bernard was bending down to enter, several chiefs were stuck behind him. Greet pulled Lin and whispered urgently. Brother Lin, the Nilka female snake who imprisoned you is now a prisoner in my hands. I promised them before that I would let you go once I brought you back, but now. As he spoke, his brows were raised and his eyes were full of interest. Brother Lin. Brother Lin N, who has been single for 10,000 years. Brother Lin N, who is always serious, has a straight face, and keeps company with all kinds of bones from morning to night. There are actually women who like it. Although Nilka's character and behavior are very unwelcome to him, it is estimated that Brother Lin may not like him either. However, not wanting to see him does not prevent him from gossiping. Hey hey hey, hey 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 hey. Following his words, Sarala also put her head forward and blinked brightly. Lin paused for a moment, rarely touching his hands and feet, then he raised his hand and pressed Gretel's forehead, and pushed out fiercely. How are you now? You must keep your promise. Let me go. Let me go immediately. By the way, how are you and Sirara? She is actually willing to accompany you to the new world. I'll go immediately and ask them to let him go. Greet ran away. He ran out of the tent and discussed with the great witch of the Kestrel tribe, asking him to send a message to the tribal settlement, and then ask the Golden Eagle warrior and the Snake Girl to pick them up. After coming back from the circle, Lin was already sitting in the middle of the tent, with an empty seat between him and Sirara. You didn't look at me, and I didn't look at you either. Gretel suppressed a smile and sat between them. On the right side, Sirala immediately gave her an elbow. How about it? Let her go, what else can I do? Greet lazily spread his hands to her. It's not like she's an important figure. What's the use of keeping a basically useless female snake? Brother Lin has no interest in her. Lin N had a pale dead face, the face of a necromancer. He pretended not to hear, lowered his head and petted the cat. Well, as long as I don't react, it's not me who's embarrassed, not me anyway. Sarara made a thump sound and tried to snatch Mr. Trochka over. She moved her hand but stopped in the end. After a pause, he turned around, picked up the lightning cat from Gretel's shoulder, and touched it again and again. Touch it twice, look at the black cat, touch it twice more, look at it again. After seeing it for the third time, Greet reached out and picked up the black cat and put it on his lap. After stroking it from beginning to end, he raised his head and said to the great chiefs and great shamans. When Mr. Trochka escaped from the Eagle country, part of his existence was torn off and he was seriously injured. Such injuries are not physical and I cannot handle them. As he said it, keep an eye on Lin's movements. Until he finished speaking, Lin An sat quietly and listened, leaning forward slightly without interrupting or blocking. His focused eyes fell on Mr. Trochka's back, full of care and worry. Greet knew that Lin wanted to find a way to save Mr. Trochka. He picked up the black cat and showed it around. Can you please take a look at the totem gods and see if you have any impressions of it? Was it injured when you saw it last year? There was silence in the tent. The witch priests looked at each other. For a moment, the great shaman priest of the Black Panther tribe spread his hands first. The leopard god has noticed this child a long time ago. He said that he is not good at this and can't help. That is, the Black Panther god who went to battle was also a powerful monster, physically present in the world. Greed had no hope for him, so he thanked the great witch priest and turned his expectant eyes to the others. What about you? What you worship are all beast spirits, ancestor gods, and such existences. This kind of injury is basically at the spiritual level, maybe higher than the spiritual level. You should be better at dealing with it. Inside the tent, the shaman priests exchanged glances with each other. Soon, the great shaman of the Buffalo tribe stood up first and approached tremblingly. He took out a polished horn and put it to his lips to blow. Soon, Gretel felt an oppressive force condensing in the tent. The gold ornaments on the crown of the great witch priest and the gold rings on the ears were clattering automatically without any wind. Even the curling and rotating totem tattoos, at first glance, look like they are about to rise from the face and soar into the night sky. The firewood in the center of the tent crackled, casting his shadow on the tent wall, magnifying it many times. Vaguely, a pair of huge horns seemed to rise behind a huge black shadow. Gretel subconsciously raised his head and looked straight into a pair of gentle and quiet eyes in the void. Those golden brown eyes looked at him quietly for a moment, then lowered their gaze and focused on Mr. Trochka. For a moment, he leaned lower and lower, took a deep breath, and exhaled it hard. The breath exhaled changes from virtual to real. Finally, a faint black light condensed in the palm of the Buffalo tribe's great witch priest. The Buffalo god said that he has never seen this person. The great witch priest of the Buffalo tribe held up the black light and sent it to Gretel, while relaying the words of his god. However, such an injury belongs to a very powerful god, stronger than him, and the attack is very sharp and fierce. He has no way to treat it, so he can only use some of his strength to make this kid feel better. A powerful, fierce god. Like a kestrel or a black panther. Or stronger. Gretel quickly thanked him, held Mr. Trochka in his arms, and carried him to the black light. Mr. Trochka had already stood up impatiently, but his legs were short and he could not jump so high. Once he was lifted to a high enough height, he kicked off his foreclaws and jumped up. Meow. It swallowed the black light into its belly and landed steadily. Turning his head, he ran back to Gretel's lap and quickly curled up into a ball. After the buffalo god saw it, the great shaman of the Kestrel tribe played the bone flute again to attract the god. The shadow of the kestrel appeared faintly. He lowered his head to observe for a while, then suddenly raised his paws to grab it. Greet screamed, etc. He quickly reached out to stop it. The illusory, cold claws passed through the back of his hand, touched Mr. Trochka's back, and then retracted. Like light entering water, it goes in and out without causing any harm. The black cat curled up peacefully, squinting its eyes and purring, and its whiskers curled up. It looks like he is digesting the light ball given by the buffalo god, and he is digesting it very comfortably. Gretel breathed a sigh of relief. Looking up, I saw the Kestrel tribe's great shaman priest putting down his bone flute with a serious look on his face. Our god said that the injuries on this child's body are very similar to those he caught, the parts and the way of attack are very similar. However, the one who attacked is much stronger than him. Gretel also had a serious look on his face. He looked at Lynn reflexively. Lynn's cheeks tightened and she nodded slowly to him. That's the most likely scenario. When escaping from the Eagle Kingdom, he was chased by the Eagle God in the air and torn off a piece. This was the most likely cause of Mr. Trochka's injury, as he had previously guessed. Without him, if you want to chase a guy who is fleeing quickly, would you let the Snake God dispatch or the Eagle God? So you're going to negotiate with the Eagle God. Gretel looked down at the black cat on his lap, scratched its chin, and then glanced at the great witch festival of the buffalo tribe. The black light spit out by the buffalo god seemed to be quite beneficial to Mr. Trochka. The black cat lying on his lap felt that its fur was much smoother and its weight seemed to have increased a bit. If you go to the Eagle God, even if you can't get the being back, you can still ask it to spit out something similar. If you replenish it slowly, it will always be remedied. What about the power of the Eagle God? Should we go back first? Greet and Lynn spoke at the same time. The two looked at each other, and Lynn slowly shook his head, took the black cat back from Gretel's lap, and pressed him hard. I'd better go back first. No matter what, I have to report to the teacher and Black Crow Swamp that everything is safe. Gretel lowered his gaze. Here we go again, he thought. Brother Lin is still like that, not wanting to put him in danger unless necessary. It's just Brother Lin, I'm now at level 10, and I'm stronger than you. I've even seen legendary battles. Don't be in a hurry when you go back. You have to understand some situations first. He raised his eyes and spoke firmly, using his eyes to stop Lin from continuing. Then he turned to several strong indigenous people. How are the powers of the Eagle God and the Snake God? Are they stronger or weaker than the plague girl we killed a few days ago? In addition to the 12 golden eagles and the 7 snake women, How many strong people and how many white people are there in their country? Eagle warrior and Black Hawk warrior. Dear Son of God, you want to know all this, why don't you ask us? A faint, gentle voice came quietly from outside the tent. Immediately after the curtain was lifted, the Titlan female snake quietly entered and saluted with a smile. When I came here this time, Archiwakato specially asked me to tell you everything about the Eagle country. Chiwakato said that if I want to win your trust and make you willing to help us deal with the white ghosts, I will tell you the truth. Let me tell you, you can't lie. Finally there is someone with a clear mind. Gretel thought. At the same time, Lin An's whisper came from the spiritual connection. I've met that Chiwakato once. He's pretty smart. It's okay as long as the leader has a brain. Greet nodded lightly at Lin, and when he turned to Titland again, his expression became stern again, and a little bored. I know nothing about the situation in the Eagle country. I can't tell whether what you are telling is a lie. If you are really sincere, do you dare to let me use detect lies to verify it? Sure. The Titlan female snake smiled, leaned back, and puffed out her chest. Spread your hands and assume a non-resisting posture. You can verify it at will, you can use magic, you can also use other methods. Sarala snorted softly from the side. Greet threw the detect lies over without hesitation. The spell did not call the police from beginning to end, and after hearing what she described, Gretel only had two thoughts in her mind, one and the other. Add money? Or shake people? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to @Chinglonggang13 Tebeo for the reward of 100 starting coins. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 979. Chapter 976. The enemy is too strong, you have to sway people, you have to add money. Under the shroud of detect lies, the Titlan female snake talked freely. And a picture of the Eagle Kingdom also appeared in front of Gretel and his companions. The Eagle country occupies a vast area. According to Titlan's description, it was the golden eagle warriors spread their God-given wings, and could not fly from the center of the royal capital to any of the borders for a day and a night. For 2 days and 2 nights, I couldn't fly from one coast to the other. Very good, Greet at least already knows that one side of this country is the sea, and the other side is also the sea. And the distance between the seas is not too far. At least, the people of this country have the ability to explore the coasts on both sides. But, Gretel did a quick mental calculation. Such a vast land must be able to support an extremely large number of people. Even excluding the large tracts of mountains, lowland plains, and forests, and fertile tropical rainforests, it shouldn't be a problem to feed a population several times that of the Kingdom of Kent. At least that huge plateau basin, many times larger than the Sichuan plain, can support 5 million people. And the surrounding area adds up to tens of millions of people, maybe all of them are there. With this population base, the number of warriors and gods it can provide, tisk. You must already know about the power of the golden eagle warrior and the female snake. The Titlan female snake said softly. It needs to be explained that only the golden eagle leader and Chiwakato can directly withstand the power of the eagle god and the snake god. Their strength is much stronger than the other golden eagles and snake women. How strong is it? How many golden eagles can a golden eagle leader defeat? Sirara asked impatiently. The Titlan female snake opened her eyes wide in surprise. How is it possible to fight? The reason why the golden eagle leader is powerful is because he can inherit the power of the eagle god. Therefore, he can also deprive other golden eagle warriors, white eagle warriors and black eagle warriors of their power. A. Deprivation of power or something. This is a structure of theocracy. The leader of the Golden Eagle is both a paladin and the Pope. Can he deprive other people of their power? But this kind of power can only run rampant within one's own system and is useless to outsiders, especially against the glorious Holy See. In addition to the Golden Eagle and the female snake, do you have other powers? Your Trottoani is the one who speaks. What is his power like? How strong is it? Ah, to become a Trottoani, strength is not important. Tidlin opened his eyes wide, with gold powder shining in the dark green eyeshadow, and naturally clasped his hands in front of his chest. He is a wise man, a leader, a person who leads the people in the direction, and a person who writes poetry and records history. Is he a noble? Greet interrupted her. Does he own a lot of fields, a lot of slaves, and does his family have a lot of powerful warriors? Or does he have a lot of spellcasters, or is he a powerful spellcaster himself? Trottoani is Trottoani. The Tidlin female snake shook her head vigorously. He is a man of wisdom and prestige. Everyone is willing to believe in him and listen to him. Strength is not the most important thing, of course. If he wants to be known to everyone, he cannot be a slave or a craftsman. Gretel silently wrote a note to Trottoani. King of men. With such a powerful force, why do you want me to join you? Gretel leaned back slightly and crossed his hands. The enemies of the glorious Holy See that you are facing are the white ghosts you call them. How powerful are they? They are very powerful. The Tidlin female snake opened her eyes wide in fear. They can emit bright white light, shining down from the sky like a sunday. Wherever the white light shines, the snake god's power is suppressed to the point where he cannot move, and he cannot even escape. There is no way. The power of the snake god is biased towards darkness, the netherworld, and death. When it meets the power of the glory god religion, it can be said to be a perfect match. When the shining god sect defeats the necromancer, he is born with the ability to leapfrog and fight, especially during the day and under the sun. What about their warriors? How many warriors can fly? Can the Golden Eagle warriors defeat them? Their warriors, those warriors who can fly, are Golden Eagle warriors. It takes 2 or 3 to withstand one. Fortunately, there are only 3 such powerful warriors, only 3. Greet let out a soft breath. According to the power system of the glorious Holy See, unless warriors rely on special magic items, they need level 15 Sky Knights to fly. The strength of the Golden Eagle warrior and the paladin are not incompatible, and they are basically at the same level. Only 2 or 3 can withstand one, which means that the level of the Golden Eagle warrior is similar to what he estimated. Level 14, or about to touch level 15, or first entered level 15, and the strength is still relatively weak. As for the level 15 Heavenly Knights, there are probably not many of them in the glorious Holy See. Attacking an indigenous kingdom and being able to extract 3 of them is already a huge investment. Where is your eagle god? Doesn't he take action? The eagle god has lowered his divine power. The Tidlin female snake's eyes widened to the limit, and there were dark shadows in the depths of her pupils, as if there was a huge black python swimming around in the writhing power of death. But the strong white ghost summoned a phantom like a hill. When the hill made of white light pressed down, the great eagle god could only smash it into pieces and drive it away. Divine descending technique. Greet lowered a finger. Even if it is a downgraded version or a beggar version of the divine descending technique, it must be performed by at least a level 15 or above archbishop, and it must rely on the holy power and magic array stored in the church, as well as a large number of priests to assist. If you want to release alone, either you must be a Holy See bishop of level 17 or above, or you must have the awareness to use holy objects and burn your life and soul. Come to think of it, the glorious Holy See led people to attack a certain indigenous kingdom to make money, so they shouldn't be interested in sacrificing their lives. Therefore, the opponent is leading the team with a strong person above level 17, probably level 18 or 19, but he is not a legend. No, wait, If it is a totem god, the amount of power exerted has a lot to do with the position of the shot. Greet thought quickly and continued to ask. So where did the eagle god fight them? Near the capital? At the edge of the country? Or outside the country? The great eagle god will protect every one of his people. The female snake's voice was trembling and high-pitched. The white ghost sent an army of 200,000 people to invade the eagle kingdom. The people on the border were robbed, and the generals who fought bravely were beheaded. The great eagle god led his warriors to fly for a day and a night, blocking the white ghosts on the towering cliffs. It sounds like it's within the country, but it's quite far away from the royal capital. Therefore, the eagle god can probably exert the power of level 17 or 18. If it is in the royal capital, the maximum explosion may be higher. Considering that there is still a snake god, the eagle kingdom may have other accumulated power. Is it safer to have a few at level 18 or 19? Gretel nodded slightly and asked a few more questions. He suddenly said, "Then why do you want me to join in? Hasn't the plague girl already been killed? Dear Son of God, you are the Lord of the plague, and you control the power of the disease." The Titlan snake smiled sweetly. Gretel's cheeks twitched, and next to him, Lin began to laugh, loudly and softly. Gretel really wished he could pounce on him and block his mouth, or give him an amnesia spell. However, outsiders could not quarrel with each other at the moment, so he could only look at the Titlan female snake and listen to her half-flattering words. Since the plague girl invaded the eagle kingdom, large swathes of citizens have fallen ill, and the entire country has been shrouded in fear. The power of the gods has also been shaken, and the great gods have sent down oracles to find ways to deal with the disease. Therefore, the power of the totem god is directly related to the total population of the country and the people's beliefs. When the population decreases, or requests for help are not answered, or faith is shaken, the power of the gods will decrease. The power of totem gods is really interesting. Greet nodded slightly. So these people have to try their best to drag him over. Whether it's treatment, isolation, or any other method, in short, if you can calm the people's fear, you can strengthen the power of the gods. I understand, he said calmly. So how long can you hold on? Now that the plague girl has been killed, the white ghosts are attacking again. The great eagle god can always hold on for half a year, right? That's for sure, the Titlan female snake blurted out reflexively. As soon as he finished speaking, his whole body trembled. Dear Lord Son of God, are you going to wait half a year before coming? We need to discuss it, Greet replied calmly with a straight face. After speaking, he waved his hand and rolled up the curtains, making a seeing-off gesture. A gentle breeze blew across my face, and the meaning was very clear. You can go now. The Titlan female snake lingered for a while, with a sad face, but finally left under Gretel's insistent eyes. As soon as she walked away, several chiefs immediately tried to dissuade Gretel. Lord Son of God, please don't rush over there. That's right. People from the eagle country are arrogant, domineering and unreasonable in their actions. If a few of you go there, if they fall out, you will be in great danger. Or wait a little longer, when the weather gets warmer, we can send a few warriors to protect you and go there together. Greet pursed her lips and said nothing, and scratched her trouser legs back and forth with her fingers. After rowing back and forth for several times, he suddenly raised his head and said, Fellow chiefs, if there are friends of mine crossing the continent and they hold my tokens, can you treat them as friends? Provide them with accommodation, supplies, and guidance. Of course. Your friends are our friends. We work together to make a token. When the tribes along the road saw it, they all knew we were friends. The chiefs were all talking and rushing to answer. Gretel raised a smile and nodded to Lin. Let them pay and let's go home and shake people off. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of Thanks to @1115 for the 5,000 starting coin reward. Big brother, please remember to reward through the web page next time. Apple mobile phones are really powerful in deducting money. T. Thanks Adahayaha for the 500 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 980. What? Want payment? The Titlan female snake was stunned. Lord Shenzi, you have changed. You were not like this before. Before, when you said you were going to give me medicine, you just gave me medicine. When you said you were going to the battlefield, you were going to the battlefield. There has never been any fussing, asking how much the reward will be, and asking for payment in advance. But there is no way. This female snake thought about it for herself. In the past, she was a hostage in their hands, and the Son of God had to compromise for the sake of her companions. Now that the hostage has been handed over, he is the youngest son of the God of Thunder and is in charge of the power of the plague. So why should he show off his identity? What he needs is coming. Besides, the people negotiating with them now are Mr. Lin En and one of Mr. Shenzi's assistants. Mr. Shenzi himself has a face that says I don't know, I don't care, you guys talk, sitting in the middle. That look in his eyes was innocent, blank, and his pupils were not very focused. It was obvious that he was just sitting here and showing off, and he didn't want to participate in the negotiation at all. Alas, we are in trouble now. Mr. Lin En has been imprisoned by them for more than half a year and has not yet breathed out. So, there is no need to pay for fighting alongside you and helping you deal with powerful enemies. Lin En's voice was already a little cold. In the previous battle, Greet and Miss Cyrilla risked their lives to fight the plague girl head-on and beat her to pieces. Although he didn't ask for it, several tribal leaders gave him generous rewards afterwards. But what about you? That small box was completely incomparable to the baskets of gold sent by the tribal leaders, as well as the subsequent supplies of gems, magic crystals, warcraft materials, etc. No matter the value or sincerity, they are incomparable. Or do you consider releasing me and sending me back as part of the reward? This is definitely not the case. The Titlan female snake was startled and quickly replied. You are a friend of Lord Shenzi, and you are our friend. It was just a misunderstanding before, and it was Nilka who made his own decision. If you allow it, we are willing to send gold equal to your own weight as a reward for asking you to take action. Well, it sounds like a lot at first glance. Lin glanced at Gretel calmly, calculating in his mind. I heard Greet mention it a long time ago. He is 175 centimeters tall and weighs 68 kilograms. I don't know how much he has grown taller and gained weight over the years. Calculating that it has been 7 or 8 years since the first meeting, the 16-year-old boy has grown to 24 years old. Gretel has indeed grown taller. To become a knight, his muscle mass must also increase. So, 70 kilograms. 72. 75? Even if it is 75 kilograms, the standard gold coins of the Kingdom of Kent are 8 grams each, and the gold coins weighing as much as myself are less than 10,000. If we take into account that the metallurgical ability of the indigenous people is not strong enough and the purity of the gold is not enough, then the value is still higher. Lower. Asking a level 10 mage to take action once requires 10,000 gold coins or 2,500 contribution points, which is actually a bit less. And this is just the price of one shot. Changing to a long-term stay and dealing with powerful enemies would cost extra money. Then, Lin saw Cyrilla leaning forward, and her silver-blue eyes instantly turned into shining pure silver. Don't transform when I go to Cyrilla. Don't turn into a dragon here. Saying the same weight of gold as yourselves does not include the same weight of gold as an adult silver dragon. There has been no communication with Nevis, and the big bosses have not been present. Don't rashly turn into a dragon here. If someone's greed is offended and you can't defeat it, It will be difficult to end it. Greet also noticed the look on the silver dragon girl's face. Her scalp was numb, and she held her hand down. Hold her tight, interlock your fingers, and take her outside. Sarala, let's go out for a walk and let Brother Lin talk about it. I have a magic here that I want to ask you. I'm not sure how to change it. The sound faded away. Lin paid them a silent salute, his gaze always falling on the intertwined hands of Gretel and Sarala, and did not turn back to his attention until the tent door fell. Before we determine the remuneration, we have other issues to discuss. How does the Eagle Country plan to ensure our personal safety during our stay in your country? No harm, no coercion, no imprisonment, while dealing with White Ghost's time, and won't be thrown into a dangerous position. Greed took Sarala and walked around outside, and then spent a long time studying magic in the mage's cabin. It wasn't until his stomach growled that Lin knocked on the door of the mage's cabin with a victorious smile. We have negotiated with them. The Eagle Country agrees to provide a batch of gold and gems, as well as a box of mid-level and above Warcraft crystal cores, and 10 high-level crystal cores. He stretched out his hand and gestured, roughly sketching the shape of a box as wide as his shoulders and with an aspect ratio of 2:1. As an advance payment and energy supply to establish a connection between us and Nevis. When people come from Nevis, the reward will be calculated based on the strength of the people. Taking the Golden Eagle Warrior as the benchmark, for every additional Golden Eagle Warrior's combat power, the Eagle Kingdom will cast a golden statue as big as the visitor as a reward. Gretel quickly calculated in his mind. The density of the human body is similar to the density of water, that is to say, how many kilograms of human body weight can displace how many liters of water. Suppose a magician weighs 75 kilograms, then what he gets is a gold statue of 75 cubic decimeters. The density of gold is 19.32 tons/cubic meter, 0.075 cubic meters, which is equal to 1.449 tons, which is about 180,000 gold coins. 180,000 gold coins is a very good reward for asking a level 15 archmage to come over. If you are an 18th level archmage, you have to go up several times. Well, the country should be satisfied with this remuneration, right? At least Sarala felt good about it. She blinked her eyes and clapped her fingers a few more times, her eyes shining. I can hit 3 without any problem. If I work hard, I can hit 6, I want to gain weight. Let them make my golden statue bigger. Greed laughed out loud. He grabbed Sarala and stopped the girl from running out like a whirlwind, shouting for food. He tightened his arms and said quickly. Sarala, you became like this through transformation. If you want to gain weight, what you need is to adjust the transformation, not to eat. No, there is no need to rush to adjust it now. Okay. Sarala dropped her shoulders in frustration. After a pause, he raised his head again. Tell me, should I go back and call my parents, aunts, and other relatives to come with me? Let's make a fortune together. There is so much gold in the Eagle Country, it would be a shame not to share it. This. Greet shook off his sweat and glanced at Lin quickly. Hey, you are the only one here who has been to the Eagle Country, give me some advice. Is there enough gold over there? In my memory, a certain Inca empire in the previous life used gold that could fill a room, or several rooms, to redeem their king. How much gold is in a house? The whole room is full of people, probably dozens, nearly 100. The archmage points are almost enough, and with the addition of dragons, it will definitely not be enough. Let's wait for now. Lin An smiled and shook his head. I don't know how many people are coming from Nevis. Even if it is an indigenous kingdom that has been accumulated for hundreds of years, the gold inventory is limited, right? Here are 2 18th level archmages to hold the line, and a few more 15th level ones. I guess that's about it. Sarala slumped her shoulders in frustration. Gretel patted her comfortingly. It's okay. When the time comes to share the gold, I'll give you my share too. Woo. But for the dragon clan, whoever's gold belongs to whom, even Cyrilla, after leaving the nest, can't even think of getting even a grain of gold from her parents, except for gifts when they meet occasionally. So Cyrilla was frustrated for a moment and then raised her head. Then what? Then, of course, they each wrote letters and prepared to send them back. Gretel returned to his residence, picked up his pen and began to write. Dear teacher, I have reached the southwest of the New World, successfully rescued Lin, and advanced to level 10. Now, we're staying near Eagle Country. The Eagle Country is at the southwest end of the northern part of the New World, with oceans on both sides and the Storm Islands on the east side. Currently, they are being attacked by the glorious Holy Sea and hope to receive our assistance. Gretel wrote in detail the information he received from the Golden Eagle Warrior and the female snake, his speculations on the strength of the Eagle Kingdom, and his speculations on the strength of the Glory Holy Sea. Finally, after writing the reward promised by the Titlan snake, write your own opinions. I have established good relations with many tribes by treating diseases and plagues along the way. They have promised to provide convenience for my friends. I think that if the strength of the Parliament is enough, now, it is time to set up shop near the Storm Islands. Good time to nail. He wrote and drew, and after writing descriptions and opinions, he also drew a sketch of the New World, encircling the location of the Eagle Country. After finishing all the official matters, I changed a piece of paper and started writing my personal matters. In addition, something unexpected happened during my advancement process. I hoped to get guidance from the teacher. My contract spirit swallowed part of the core of the totem god. When I advanced, I felt like I was going to become a totem god. Swish, brush, 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 brush. I finished writing in one breath, flipping through the letter paper. There were more than a dozen sheets, a thick stack. When the Mage Tower in the New World transmits information, is it transmitting physical paper, or is it transmitting information? But there is no way, there is really so much information that needs to be conveyed. Gretel walked out of the room with the letter in his arms. When he turned around, Lin opened the door and came out. As soon as I saw him, I handed the letter over generously. Let's check the information and see if we missed anything. Gretel exchanged letters with him. When I opened it, I saw at the beginning that I was reporting to the teacher that I was safe, that I had been rescued, and that I was trapped in the Eagle Kingdom. Look further down. Brother Lin, don't write everything. Don't tell others about the youngest son of the God of Thunder or the Lord of Plagues. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. The British sword gold coin is 7.97 grams each. Little Greet's height and weight were 175 centimeters and 68 kilograms when he appeared. These years have passed, and I don't know if I have grown taller or gained weight since I became a knight. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 981. Chapter 978, Grab the money. No, grab the quota for the New World operation. This little Gretel can always come up with something new for me. The Lord of Thunder put down the letter in his hand, the New World Tower Spirit scanned and transmitted it, the Babel Tower Spirit forwarded and printed it, and sent a puppet to deliver it to him, with a slight smile. He pushed the letters in his hand and let them fly lightly toward the disciples. He crossed his fingers and leaned back. Let's see. Teacher, I am willing to go over and support little Greet. Archmage Baebo read the entire text at a glance and answered immediately. Isn't he just an indigenous god around level 18? He went over and crushed it every minute, holding the roasted chicken by its neck and making it spit out everything it had eaten. Beside him, Archmage Philby read the letter carefully and lowered her head to think for a moment. He handed the letter to another junior brother, passed it down one by one, and said slowly. Senior brother is gone, so I don't have to go. If we need manpower, I can choose a few of my disciples who are around level 15 to help my senior brother with some chores. In addition She turned her head slightly and looked outside the Babel Tower in the direction of the Sleepless Tower. Maybe Black Crow Swamp will also send people there? Should we discuss it with them first? In addition, if the council wants to operate this line, the risks and benefits need to be evaluated in advance. Doesn't Congress know there is an Eagle Nation? How can it be? Maybe the low-end magicians don't know, but for archmages above level 15, if you go up to the legendary level, as long as you have a heart, you will at least know that there is an eagle country on the other side of the mountain and on the other side of the sea. As for why we didn't reach out before, it was of course because we were too far away from home and too close to the enemy. The vast new world is full of dangers, and input and output are disproportionate. Even if high-level forces or even legends are deployed to defeat the Eagle Kingdom, how will it be ruled? The power of the Parliament is not enough to rule a country with a population larger than that of the Kingdom of Kent. To snatch it away is to give the rich land to the glory Holy See for free. How do you build a base if you don't defeat them? Without establishing a base, how can you deal with the natives, and how can you deal with the forces of the Lord of Radiance that have occupied the Storm Islands and the southern part of the New World, and where ship personnel often come and go? But now, greed has eliminated the risk for them by walking overland. As long as you take Gretel's token and don't cause trouble or bully anyone along the way, the natives along the way will treat them as friends. Archmage Philby can almost imagine Gretel's behavior. Healing along the way, healing along the way. Urgent about the patient's needs and thinking about the patient's thoughts, we receive almost no payment, or we only receive a little if we can't refuse. It's really a standard natural priest approach. Archmage Philby glanced at the teacher quickly. I don't know how the teacher is feeling now. I had always been happy that little Gretel was popular, but I was worried that he was too soft-hearted and would easily suffer when dealing with others. All in all, the teacher's style of dealing with people is still one of hit him until he doesn't accept it, and the same is basically the case when educating his disciples. The teacher may not be too happy with little Gretel's soft-handed and soft-hearted behavior. Over there in the Black Crow Swamp, wait for them to come to us, the Lord of Thunder said, not very interested. In the final analysis, this matter is mainly about us, and besides, little Gretel went to war and found people from the country. In the final analysis, it is to save the magic pets of his followers. It is also a matter of Black Crow Swamp. Or, just submit the matter jury. After saying this, he clicked his tongue, a little unhappy. It's okay to travel thousands of miles to the New World to save people, even the magic pet needs to be treated, so choosing a totem god of about level 18 for this is too lenient. If he wasn't doing his job properly, if it weren't for the fact that it was really good for the Parliament, I really wouldn't want to deal with him. Archmage Philby responded respectfully. Seeing that the teacher had no other instructions, he was about to leave when the vase ornaments on the Lord of Thunder's table suddenly lit up. The Lord of Thunder patted the vase, and the vase lit up completely, and His Excellency the Immortal's dry and hoarse laughter came out. Lord of the Plague, ha 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 ha, you little Gretel is the Lord of the Plague, ha 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 ha. Among the laughter, there was also a little snap, snap, a dry sound of wood and bone colliding. God knows if it was the skull rolling on the table while laughing. All the disciples and subsequent disciples of the Lord of Thunder lowered their heads at the same time, not daring to look at the teacher's face, and not daring to let the teacher see their own faces, although, it was really funny. Even if he is the Lord of Plague, he is first and foremost the youngest son of the God of Thunder, the Lord of Thunder replied calmly without changing his expression. The laughter stopped abruptly. Something plopped and fell down. Several archmages tried their best to lower their heads and hold back laughter. They all saw the letter just now and didn't dare to mention it because they didn't want to irritate the teacher, but, It was really funny. After being silent for a long time, sounds continued to come from the Tower of Sleeplessness. Your Excellency, the Immortal said feebly. Okay, it seems that you have also received the letter. Hey, who are you sending? I will send someone of the same level, or one level lower, and 2 more level 15 ones. Up to you. The Lord of Thunder still had the same indifferent tone, as if he was not interested in his proposal. The Immortal is a little anxious. Hey, I won't fight with you. The power of the snake god over there is very similar to the necromancy system, and the mummies and crystal skulls over there are very interesting. We only need that one. If you want the others, just give them you, or give it to the Parliament. Then let the review committee evaluate it. Good. The two legends chatted briefly and the matter was settled. Next, the review meeting gathers people to check the information, evaluate the situation, and see how to deal with the current situation. How far is the Eagle Country from the Kingdom of Kent's colony in the New World? How much spare capacity does the Kingdom and Parliament have that can be transported to trade, and how much spare manpower can be spared to run this line? Could establishing a fixed base in Eagle Country provide a home port for the Navy, or at least the trade, to run this line? Is the country rich enough to provide enough profits for traders to support this line? By the way, there is another crucial point, whether the power of the glorious Holy See in the Storm Islands and the southern part of the New World has declined, and whether it will directly push them back. Now is a good opportunity. Alice Usman, the rotating member of the review committee of the Energy Shaping School, from the ice direction, turned over a page of documents and spoke firmly. With the possibility of establishing a base, Master Nordmark has successfully invited the Eagle Country to invite us. We can enter in a dignified manner as reinforcements. Mage Nordmark has opened up the land transportation lines for us. If the army of the glorious Holy See can be destroyed in this battle, then it can be foreseen that the power of the glorious Holy See in the New World will reach a low point in the next 5 to 10 years. This is a rare opportunity for us to expand our presence in the New World. And the Storm Islands are really very rich. The review committee member of the Change Department nodded. As soon as he spoke, everyone at the table smiled and nodded. Even the junior magician sitting in the back row of the conference room, ready to deliver information at any time, also showed longing eyes. Gold. What a gem. Magic crystal. Fur. There are also those sucrose, tobacco, various dyes. If a sea ship goes to the New World, the profit will be at least several times higher. Why didn't the Parliament take this route before? Didn't they want to? In the recent period, the headquarters of the glorious Holy See, as well as the Kingdom of Brolin and the Kingdom of Rhine, may not have time to support the New World. The review committee member of the Charm Control Department sorted out the information at hand and asked his subordinates to distribute it to each committee member. After the Battle of Ostend, the Brolin Kingdom suffered heavy losses. The Cape Kingdom in the center and the Netherlands in the north successively declared their independence. Currently, Brolin is in deep quagmire, and even the headquarters of the glorious Holy See is facing challenges. That justification by faith sect, the Necromancy Committee member looked over and said. I heard they were making a lot of noise. The Netherlands, as well as several border principalities of the Rhine Kingdom, have tolerated the Holy See for a long time, and recently, I heard that there are ascetics close to the legendary level who have switched to the righteousness by faith faction and published very influential articles. Several review committee members reviewed the surrounding situation, reviewed the power of the Holy See in the New World, and reviewed their own trading and production capabilities, and concluded that this business can be done. At the very least, you can send someone there first to join forces with the Eagle Kingdom to kill the army of the Glory Holy See. This is no loss at all. As for the rewards for the Archmage's action, Gretel has already negotiated with the Eagle Kingdom. A 15th level Archmage will at least be rewarded with a life-size golden statue. Waiting for you. Even if all the Archmages are not good at sports, are thin and have no muscles, they still have hundreds of thousands of gold coins for such a trip. No need for the council to pay for it. This project was proposed by Master Nordmark. Thunderhorn sent the 18th level Archmage Baebo and led two 15th level Archmages there. Elias Usman spoke first. The Necromancy Review Committee continued. Black Crow Swamp sends an 18th level Archmage and a 15th level Archmage there. Hey, you can't take up all the seats, the review member of the change department said anxiously. Let's keep a few of them at least. Go to the Eagle Country, do business with the locals, purchase items and evaluate special products. You don't need us anymore. There is also a long-distance teleportation array. The conjuration system continued. If the Mage Tower, teleportation array and other permanent facilities are to be built, are you sure we won't need our people to go there? And us, whether it's dealing with the natives or controlling the soldiers of the glorious Holy See on a large scale, the control department is the best at it. There were so many people talking, they were talking so loudly that they almost turned red in the face. There is no way, although the money cannot reach the hands of the committee members, it is a small help to their own faction. As for which Archmage to send to the New World, on this issue, you can sell a big favor. If you don't grab it now, when will you wait? You are all here for the rewards. The Protection Department Review Committee member is the oldest and the most stable. After listening for a while, I couldn't help it anymore and slammed the table hard. Before you go, think about how much money the other party has. Don't end up making trouble that requires you to rob the treasury. It doesn't have to be to rob the national treasury. If the Eagle Country is worried about money, just let them use the land to pay off the debt and give us a piece of land as a permanent base. You can buy it, you can rent it, for example, for 999 years or something. The member of the prophecy department said leisurely. In an instant, everyone shut up and paid attention to him. You are still black. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to an old man who doesn't smoke for the 100 starting coin reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 982. Chapter 979. The main force of the Parliament has arrived. Senior brother, don't hit me in the head. Push up to add update 4. When will someone come to the house? Yeah, when will someone come to the house? Greet and Lynn sat in the hotel in the small town of Waltham, sighing each other with a long and short sigh. They ran all the way back to the small town on the east coast where they started. The news was sent back through the Mage Tower. The identity of the 9th level mage and a large box of magic crystal energy played a great role, so I had nothing to do and just stayed here in a daze every day. What? Shop? In such a small town, it only takes less than half an hour to walk from the port to the edge of the wasteland. What is there to see? The entire port combined is almost full of shops that collect various raw materials, such as Warcraft meat, Warcraft skins, Warcraft tendons, various medicinal materials, large and small pearls, and Warcraft bones. Walking from the street to the end of the street, and then from the end of the street to the street, basically you have seen enough. Gretel has a lot of these raw materials in his hands, and they are the top quality. Places close to human society will basically not produce powerful monsters, and there will be nothing interesting to see. In addition to the raw material store, there are still a few stores selling cloth, scissors, needlework, and daily necessities, a store selling clothes and jewelry, a store selling paper, pens, ink, knives, and candles, and a store selling adventurer supplies. Store. The items there cannot be sold even in mid-range neighborhoods in Nevis, and can only be sold in slums. Even if it is placed here, Greed puts half of his head in, takes a look in the dim light, turns around and walks away. Shopping is not a big deal, but traveling has no scenery. Wanting to catch a fish, Sarala didn't sit at the beach for 2 minutes before she made a plop and went straight into the water. Then, the huge, dark shadow dived toward the bottom of the sea. Gretel. Sarala, we are fishing, not catching fish. If you dive down, will there be any fish in the surrounding sea? Then, there was no place to go shopping or entertainment. Baron Simo never tired of going to bars and dealing with waitresses every day, but Greet was scared just by looking at it. The two people who dismantled the spell model until they vomited had no choice but to sit in the hotel and sigh. When will people come from the country? Don't let them wait for 3 months, in other words, the fastest sea ship will take a month and a half. I don't know if the Parliament has enough courage to directly send an alchemy ship, or compare it to an alchemy ship. Stronger. Meow dash. Mr. Trochka suddenly cried out. With a light jump, he jumped from the table to the windowsill and stretched out his claws into the distant air. One grab, one slap, one more grab. Gretel and Lynn turned their heads at the same time, looking up at the sky. 2 pairs of eyes widened at the same time. What's this? In the sky very far away, a black spot grew from small to large, approaching very fast. At first glance, it seems that it is still at the limit of visual distance and can only see a small dot. At the second glance, it looks like a barracuda with wings, stirring the sea of clouds and swimming freely between the clouds and the sky. Looking at it for a third time, it turns out that this barracuda is composed of 2 parts. The fusiform capsule below is divided into 2 parts based on the center line. The lower part is as white as the sky, the upper part is as dark as the earth. Above the fusiform cabin, a row of sails was spread out, staggered forward and backward, and full of sails. At first glance, it looks like it is made of canvas. If you look closely, you will see that there is light flowing on each sail, all 7 colors, and countless magic symbols rising slightly, looming. This is airship. Such a big airship. Gretel stretched his neck and tried his best to look around. He has seen and ridden in the Parliament's airship. There is a place near the top of Igor Peak where the airship is parked. However, such a large airship flies thousands of miles directly from Nevis. One can imagine that it might be a long way from here to the land of eagles. The Parliament is so generous this time. Gretel suddenly felt his shoulders sink. Such a large airship has been mobilized. It can be imagined that the Parliament is very determined and invested a lot this time. With such a large investment, if you lose money, I don't know if I can make up for this loss if I robbed all the Eagle Kingdom. But, good. It's better not to have such bad thoughts, try to be kind to others, and achieve a win-win situation. By the way, should we go and greet him? Lynn waved her hand in front of him. Gretel looked at the airship ahead from a distance, his eyes empty. I was wondering, does this small town of Waltham have an apron, or an airport? Where will the airship land if it lands? Before he finished speaking, a beam of colored light shot out from the top of the mage tower in the port and headed straight for the airship. The colored light shot straight up into the sky, and when it reached the airship, it made a snap sound and unfolded into a light curtain, blocking the airship behind. The airship also shot down a colorful light, hitting the light curtain. The 2 rays of light entangled with each other for a while, merged into one, folded downwards, and disappeared silently into the mage tower. In the mage tower, a mage soon flew up, standing high in the sky, stroking his chest and saluting. The presiding mage of Waltham Port, Blanchestria, welcomes all the archmages. Please come with me. Come on, let's go too. When they land and we can't be seen yet, we're afraid we're going to get knocked on the head. However, Greet, who went to greet him honestly, still did not escape the fate of being knocked on the head. The first time senior brother Burbo saw him, he stretched out his hand and a translucent mage's hand flew out and smashed several chestnuts on his forehead. Crack! 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 Ouch! It hurts. Greed held his head and cried out in pain. Big brother! Why are you hitting me? He was beaten obediently, but Sirara couldn't stand it anymore. Standing aside, with a straight face, he reached out to grab the mage's hand. Halfway up her hand, Gretel held it down and winked at her. Don't fight with your senior brother, you can't beat him. After being knocked obediently twice, the senior brother stopped. When we started fighting with him, I got even more hits. Sirara stood aside with a pouted mouth. The mage's hand changed from bending two fingers to hit the head, to spreading the whole hand and patting Gretel on the head. Senior brother Baebo crossed his arms and smiled. You are so capable. You have actually become the Lord of Plague? Huh? Did you know that the neighbor came to show off to the teacher just for this? Well. Gretel slumped down in despair. Really, it was the necromancers who called him out, and they even came to the teacher to laugh at me. It was really annoying. If I couldn't beat him. Do you know you are in danger this time? The senior brother slapped him on the head enough before throwing him a lot of information. There was a large 16 to 8 carat thick book with a hard cover and gold corners. Holding it in her hands, her arms sank down. Sirara quickly took it and stuffed it into her own space equipment. There is a large piece of hard leather with many words carved on it. The handwriting is rough, the other side of the leather is quite rough, it feels like scales. There were stacks of bound papers, and Greet glanced at them, looking like papers copied from a thesis library. There is a small book with yellow and brittle edges. I don't know which predecessor's handwriting it is. These are the pitfalls that the senior mages have fallen into. Take a good look at them, the senior brother earnestly urged, wishing that he could hold Gretel's ears with his mage's hands and pour all these words into his head. In the past, there were mages who showed their power in the wilderness, among the indigenous tribes, or while exploring different spaces, and were worshipped by others. As they were worshipped and worshipped, their power was taken astray. When he said this, his face suddenly became serious. He had obviously read these records and was deeply shocked by the tragedy inside. The luckier ones spent more than half of their strength, cut off from their own spiritual power, and barely escaped. The unlucky ones indulged in the power brought by that kind of worship, and in the end, the whole person became what the indigenous people thought. It looks like I can't find myself again at all. Gray shivered. Fortunately, he made a prompt decision and blasted away those calls of Lord of Plague and got rid of them. If there is a little bit of greed and addiction. If he didn't do it right, he would now be wandering in the wilderness of the New World, turning into the Plague Girl. Oh, that's not very likely. After all, he is taller and stronger. Maybe, he will become uglier? Take these back and take a good look at them, senior brother Baebo warned him earnestly. Look at the path that our predecessors have walked and the mistakes they have made. By the way, remember to write down your situation this time and submit it to the parliament. This is a very valuable experience, and your experience will also become a reference for future generations. Guidance, don't forget it. Greet nodded obediently with a grimace. It's over. Originally, the Lord of Plagues was just a joke. Everyone yelled and laughed, and it was dismissed. Now it has to be written down on paper, and how he died is to be written down exactly. After this report is submitted to Parliament, will the name Lord of the Plague be nailed to his forehead and never be washed away? By the way, where is your paper? Huh? Paper. You've advanced to level 10. During this time in the New World, you haven't gained any new insights? No research on new magic? No new experiments? The senior brother rolled his eyes at him angrily and threw out questions one by one. Ask a question, and greed will sink a little lower, ask again, and a little lower. I'm here to take risks and save people this time. The experiment is new, but... No buts? No buts allowed. The mage raised his hand again and struck his head. In the past few days, you should sort out your thoughts and write a paper quickly. Before we set off, the paper must be finished and sent to Nevis through the Mage Tower. Let the teacher also take a look at your recent progress. Gretel. No, I'm already level 10. The road to legend is already halfway gone. Why am I still being urged to write a paper when I take a risk to save someone? Even if primary school students are on summer vacation, they don't have to write summer homework every day. 20 days have passed this month, and Cat is still 326 away from the first 1,000 monthly tickets, and far away from the second 1,000 monthly tickets. The Cat wants a monthly pass. Cat also wants 2,000 monthly tickets this month. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks at Ahayaha for the 500 starting coins. Thanks at O Evolution Master Abathur O for the 100 starting coins reward. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 983. While people were joking and joking here in Thunderhorn, mainly because Gretel was beaten unilaterally, the atmosphere in Black Crow Swamp was quite solemn. Lin En stood in front of a tall and thin black-robed mage with his head lowered and his hands clasped tightly. The black-robed mage was pale, and his face was more bloated than chubby. His pupils were dark and stared straight at Lin En's face. His black robe was made of an unknown material. At first glance it looked like the highest grade velvet, but upon closer inspection it looked translucent, with countless pale dots rising one after another inside. If you stare at it carefully, every little dot is a painful human face. There is no mage badge on his robe. It is obvious that this person has reached the point where even if he doesn't use the mage badge, he doesn't have to worry about no one recognizing him. At least Lin recognized him. The disciple of His Excellency the Immortal, his own mentor, and the senior brother of Archmage Edgar. Among the necromancers still remaining in Nevis under the Immortals sect, the highest ranking one. Gastro Hines, an 18th level necromancer, branch of death. You were in danger this time and Black Crow Swamp was unable to rescue you. I'm sorry. Master Hines spoke slowly. His voice was hoarse and dry, as if he hadn't used his vocal cords for at least 10 years. Lin En knew that this was normal. Many high-level necromancers were accustomed to using ventriloquism to speak, or simply used the necromancers they carried with them to speak for them. As for themselves, a body that has gradually been infiltrated by negative energy and is even preparing to transform into a lich, what kind of voice function do you need? He quickly lowered his head and stared at the corner of the robe of the elder, while being careful not to let himself be immersed in that robe. The bone-white robe of Master Hines is also a famous magic weapon in Black Crow Swamp, and it restrains hundreds of dead souls. He even used space magic to refine 18 skulls, all of which were the most powerful enemies he had killed in his life, including many obtained by leapfrog kills. When facing enemies with insufficient level will be distracted by the magic robes just by taking a glance at them, even if they can resist, the dead souls and skulls will fly out together, and they can still beat the opponent into confusion. What's more, these dead souls and skeletons can level up by eating their enemies. I was in danger at the time, the situation was unknown, and the new world was too vast and full of dangers. Lin lowered his head and spoke in a calm tone. Even his heart was calm and without any resentment. Whether it is according to the habits of the mage or the habits of Black Crow Swamp, there is no reason for the school to spend too much manpower and energy to rescue me and fall into danger. He raised his head and looked directly at Master Hines, his eyes calm and unblinking. Besides, in order to save me, the teacher also did everything he could with people, effort, and money. I am very grateful. Anyway, Black Crow Swamp is very happy that you can get out of trouble. Master Hines sighed secretly, wondering whether this child was pulled over by Thunderhorn. No resentment, just because there are no expectations. If you have expectations for the school and the teacher, how can you really not be resentful? He turned over his hands and took out a space bag and handed it to Lin. You advanced to level 9 in the new world. There must be some 5-ring spells that you didn't redeem before you left. These are some spells collected in Black Crow Swamp. You can take a look at them first. There are also 2 magic rewards from the master. Equipment. Although this kind of icing on the cake is not as good as providing timely help, it is still better than nothing. Lin took it with both hands, lowered his head, and listened to Master Haynes continue. By the way, the eagle god has scratched your magic pet. As long as it doesn't swallow it, we will make it spit it out. If there is more than 1 crystal skull, one of them will be assigned to your name. Thank you, Your Excellency. Lin An bowed lightly and did not refuse. The school was willing to give to him, and of course he was grateful and willing to reciprocate. Is there any need to refuse such a win-win situation? Master Hines nodded. Your teacher has just been promoted to level 13 recently. For the time being, he is still busy with study and research. In the future, if you have any questions, you can ask me directly. After saying this, Lin An nodded and immediately continued. Come, take a walk with me and get to know the mages who are here this time. Lin hesitated. He quickly glanced at Gretel and shook his head. Sorry, I think it's better for me to follow Master Nordmark. Heinz waved his hand and stopped talking. Lin walked quickly behind Greet and lined up between Sarah and Bernard. He followed Greet forward step by step and listened to the introductions one by senior brother Baebo. This is Gassani Muniz, your senior sister Philby's disciple, level 15, force field direction. Master Muniz took a step forward and nodded to Gret first. Although he has a higher level, in front of the Lord of Thunder, Gretel is sitting and he is standing. Gretel can discuss and ask questions, but he can only listen with his ears open. Besides, this person is already level 10. At this rate of advancement, he might be higher than him in a few years. How can he be arrogant to the other party based on his own level? Greet nodded quickly in return. Senior brother Baebo then pointed to the next one. This is Isabel lad, level 15, sonic direction. Isabel smiled at him but did not move, waiting for Gretel to bow first. Gretel instantly understood. This person is not from Thunderhorn, maybe from another branch of the evocation department. Also, even though the teacher is a rotating legend stationed at Igor Peak, it is not good for him to swallow all the money and not share it with others. This is Archmage Mansfield of the Conjuration System, a 9th level Arcanist, and a level 17 Magician. He is good at portal construction, mage tower construction, and tower spirit enlightenment. Wow! Acquaintance. Greet saluted respectfully. Archmage Mansfield smiled and said, I was the one who came to enlighten your mage tower in the first place. In just a few years, it has gone from level 3 to level 10. It's amazing. If you work harder, your mage tower can be upgraded again in the future. It depends on the harvest of this wave. Greet laughed. Archmage Mansfield also laughed. I also hope that this time the harvest will be better. At the very least, if the council wants to build the mage tower in the Eagle Country, it can use more local materials and consume less of the ones brought by the council. Then it's up to me. Another mage beside him interrupted. Gretel turned around after hearing this, and Archmage Baebo gave him some pointers. This is Archmage Vickers from the Alchemy Guild. He is level 15. He is good at manufacturing magic equipment and identifying precious materials. Okay, is this person responsible for identifying, refining materials, and providing raw materials to the Mage Tower? It seems that this action of the Parliament is to build a permanent base in the Eagle Country. Gretel followed his senior brother, nodding, smiling, and saying names one by one. The people who came from the council this time were 2 at level 18, 2 at level 17, and a bunch of people at level 16 and 15. Of course, each archmage also brings 1 or 2 combat class followers, who are also level 15 and up. This row of people stood up, and Greet looked a little frightened. Is the treasury of the Eagle country enough? Will it be necessary to plunder the people, raid nobles and wealthy businessmen, or even go to temples to dismantle golden statues? It's not good to go too far. In the final analysis, we are here to cooperate, not to steal money. The rest of the people were standing far below the airship and did not come over, nor were they personally introduced by the Archmage. Greet guessed that many of them were apprentices, disciples, or staff of the Parliament, brought here to do their bidding, or preparing to go to the Eagle Kingdom to start work. Everyone rest here for 3 days. After the introduction, Archmage Baebo's loud voice immediately spread throughout the team. Inspect the airship, replenish food, drinking water, and energy, and purchase supplies. Take advantage of these 3 days to understand the situation in the new world and purchase some additional things suitable for the local conditions. In 3 days, meet here early in the morning. The crowd dispersed in an uproar. Maintenance of airships, chatting with local mages, shopping together, trying to buy cheap things and going to stores one after another. Gretel just stretched his head and wanted to go on the airship for a walk when his senior brother pushed him back. Why do you still want to be lazy? Let's go back and write the paper quickly. Before the airship sets off, hand in the paper quickly and the teacher can give it to you quickly. Gretel, I'm not saying that. My recent achievements are rather strange, and the teacher may not approve them. However, under the violent suppression of his senior brother, Gretel remained obedient and went to write. Well, the first part, the advanced process and insights, as well as the analysis and vigilance of the power of faith. The second article uses bleaching powder solution as the raw material to induce cloud and fog, and analyzes the ability to restrain fog of disease. The third article uses cowpox as a casting material to trigger the fog of disease and inoculate it quickly and in large quantities. In the fourth article, he revised it and lowered it to the 3rd level of mass disease technique. Archmage Baebo comes around every once in a while. I saw Gretel writing at his desk for a while, with a focused expression, and the endless ink pen rubbed against the paper, making a swishing sound. For a while, he leaned in front of the case, eyes slightly closed, only the hard-working oak staff curling up the pen to write hard. It seemed that he was using mind control instead of handwriting. After a while, he jumped up and turned around a few times, moved his hands and feet, and jumped in place a few times. Oak staff continued to write hard, and then jumped up on the spot and gave Gretel a big surprise. Okay, I'll write it myself. Gretel muttered to his oak staff and sat back down. Archmage Baebo stood beside his desk, picked up a paper and started reading. After reading the first article, I nodded and smiled. After reading the second article, I pondered slightly. After reading the third article, I frowned slightly. After reading the fourth article. Are you determined to become the Lord of Plagues? For such a long time, you haven't studied even a little bit about the spells in the plasticity department. Ouch. Ouch. Let go. It hurts. Gretel tilted his head and bared his teeth. I was just reminded by a reader that my monthly votes have entered the top 10 of the Fantasy Monthly Votes list, which is equivalent to having an additional fixed recommendation spot on the Fantasy channel. Please help me keep it up. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to the Strong Sea Monster for the 5,000 starting coins reward. Thanks to at Uchiha Kentetsu for the 500 starting coins.